Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Friday, March 4th, 2022. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by the one and only Mr. Josh Crash Davis. Josh, how are you on this wonderful Friday?
Good morning, Coach. Doing well. We've got a nice, is it 8 or 9 games here?
Nine big games.
Yep, 9-game slate. So got a lot to dive into.
I'm excited. We've had some 6 and 7 gamers. We haven't had the big 9 or double digit since the All-Star break. So this is the biggest full field. And I like, me, I like the full fields where you have some more options and less chalk as it spreads around to the ownership. So
definitely
looks like a great card.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. We've got 3 teams on the first night of a back-to-back and 3 teams on the second night. So we'll fill that in as we go, but really appreciate everybody tuning in. Real quickly, if you want to jump on with us, go to dfscoachtalk.com. We have several different memberships that you can join if you want to dip your toe in the water. We have a 3-day $10 pass that will get you Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You'll get right through the weekend. All of our NBA, all of our PGA. So come join us, check it out. It is the best community and Discord in the world. Is your dog giving you trouble?
Yeah, he's drinking all the water in his bowl, and I'm trying to get him to stop. So
Oh, that's fine. I've had my dog too, where I'm shooing on the side trying to.
Yeah.
I love dogs. They are they do not care, and they know when we can't react too. That's
right,
the funny part.
Yep. It is all good.
No doubt. Well, let's dive in because we've got a big 9 games here. We don't want to waste any time going in. I do want to thank our presenting sponsor, Prize Picks. And speaking of Prize Picks, if you go to prizepicks.com, sign up for the first time, all the way up to $100, they'll match that $100 and get it right into your account. No drip, no nothing. And if you use that promo code Coach Talk, you get that as your first deposit match all the way up to $100. So speaking of Prize Picks, Josh, we have the Prize Picks choices of the week at the end of this podcast. Yeah. So something to stay tuned for to the end of the show.
Yep, looking forward to that.
All right, man, here we go. We've got right off the bat 3 7 o'clock locks, so it's going to get juicy right off the bat. First game of the night is the Cleveland Cavaliers and Philadelphia 76ers. Philly's favored by 7.5. It's a 218 total, so low total, 105.25 for Cleveland, 112.75 for Philly. This should be a really fun game to check out.
Definitely.
Coming in, Cleveland has a 36-26 record, Philadelphia 38-23. We have Rondo doubtful and LeVert out again. Yes, he's doubtful as well, but I'm saying he's out. I don't think he's going to play from what I read. Then we have a bizarre one for Philly. He's eligible to play, and he's probable, and that's the newly acquired Deandre Jordan for Philly.
Yeah.
So now he's backing up Embiid and Drummond. They have a third veteran, Deandre Jordan. Sort of an interesting move there. All right, looking at this game, a couple of things statistically. Cleveland 26th in pace, Philadelphia 28th. So that's why we have the low total of 218 for sure. And then also on top of that, you've got the other negative for us DFS players, the 4th and 9th best defenses in the entire league. So you've got 2 top 9 defenses, 3 of the bottom 4 pace. And man, that makes it tough, especially when you got these huge pay-ups. So what's your first brush here at this game, Josh?
Yeah, the first play that I'm looking at is Matisse Thybulle. He's really benefited, ever since they've made that trade. He's had 21, 24, and 28 DraftKings points in his last 3 games. And he had 27 when they played the Cavs on February 12th. So they played each other not too long ago. And he's only 3,900 on DraftKings. So I think that's a good value there. for Thibault. You could look at Harden. I'm kind of leaning more towards Embiid if I play one of these two. He's a little cheaper than Jokic and Giannis, so I like that, at least on FanDuel. Actually, I think he is on both sides. He's 10-8 on FanDuel. He's 11-8 on DraftKings, so he is expensive. But he had 83 DraftKings points last time he played the Cavs with 40 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists for a triple-double.
Good Lord.
Yeah, he had a monster game. So those would be the main plays for me. I don't really like anyone on the Cleveland side in this game. This is just with a 9-game slate. I think that I can, kind of narrow it down to some other guys that I like and not have to dive as deep on the Cleveland side. So that's kind of where I'm leaning at this point, is probably Thibault and Embiid.
Yeah, it's hard here. I mean, as much as this game is such a great game and there is some great potential, I mean, just all the things that we mentioned play against that, and you don't get any price reductions really on those Philly guys. Yeah, I mean, Harden at 11.5, he's going to get Okoro defense, which is solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Embiid, we know he's destroyed this team before.
Right.
But he, you would think with the 3 7-footers in there, Markkanen, Mobley, and Allen, that they could slow him down a little bit. Plus, the dynamic has changed. Obviously, they didn't have Harden the last time they played Cleveland, so he was a one-man show. If you look at usage that game they played, the ball was in his hands like the whole entire time. So, 11-8 definitely is too much for me. 10-8, maybe I can think about it on FanDuel, but I'll tell you, to be honest, Maxey at 6'6" has really shown to be the third option here, which is shocking with Tobias Harris there. He's the guy that sort of sunk out of it a little bit. So Maxey, I actually have a little interest in a sneaky 6'6" Maxey as the guy on that side of the ball. I will say on Cleveland side, he's going to get Thibault defense, and that's Darius Garland. But at 7.9, now that's not a bad price for a guy that can dominate play. So I would consider Darius just because he's at sub 8K number. But after that, it's just, to me, it's too tough. I mean, Markkanen at 5.9, but he's, playing well, but getting some time split with Love, basically. And then, the two big, 7.3, Mobley, 7.6, Allen, just a little bit too high for me, for what the two guys can offer with that tough Embiid interior. So as much as I'm going to watch this game and love this game, I'm not going to dive all over it. Maybe a consideration to Garland and Maxey of all people, but probably not going to have much ownership here in this one.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, let's go on to the second game. It's the Atlanta Hawks and Washington Wizards, also 7 o'clock. It's Atlanta -4, 223.5 total, 113.75 implied for Atlanta, 109.75 for the Washington Wizards. Coming into the game, Atlanta's 30-32, Washington is 28-33. We have two very, very important questionable tags that we need answered, and that's John Collins and Onyeka, easy for you to say, Okongwu. So those two guys, huge pieces of their offense, especially Collins starting. Okongwu generally gets a good chunk of minutes at center, spelling Capella. So we need that news, number one. Secondly, then on the Washington side, of course, Vernon Carey. I know he was one of your top plays today, but he's doubtful, so you're going to have to scratch him, Josh.
Yeah.
And then guess what? You're not going to believe this.
Kristaps Porzingis.
He's out.
Yeah.
Can you believe he's not playing? I'm sorry. For the Wizards fans, I hate to keep rubbing it in, but what are you going to do? It's all that frustration, all that time for Porzingis. I know that you feel my pain, and I know that that's not fun pain to feel. But anyway, enough gloating on poor Kristaps. I need to leave him alone now and be done with it. I think the point has been firmly made.
Yeah.
So on this side, a couple of things. It is the second night of a back-to-back with Atlanta, and they did have a hard-fought game last night. So it could definitely affect things. We have no report on Trae Young so far, but he was questionable going into last night. So, keep your ears open. We may definitely hear some news here from Trae or somebody on the squad. So a lot of things could change as it goes on, especially the news with Collins and Okongwu. So the tough part here, though, 223, not bad, 223.5, I mean, but not great either. You've got the 20th and 23rd pace, which really doesn't help matters. But the positive here, Crash, is you've got the 27th and 23rd ranked defense. So these teams have both been fairly porous lately and can definitely get up some points. So where are you leaning in this game here? And how much do you think that game last night's going to affect the Atlanta team?
It may a little bit. Trae Young, we had to wait all day basically to find out if he was going to play, and then he ended up having one of the biggest games on the slate, of course. But I think that there could be, a little bit of management with his minutes, maybe. We'll see on that. But I still like Capella at 6,400 on FanDuel, 6,200 on DraftKings. Washington's allowed the 5th most fantasy points to centers. He had 40 DraftKings points the last time they played, so solid number there at only 6,200 on DraftKings. And especially if Collins is out, I like Capella. Bogdanovich is 6K on DraftKings, so that's not too bad of a price for a guy that scored 30 plus in 6 of his last 7 games. DraftKings points, that is. He had 34.5 DraftKings points last time they played. So I do like him. I like a little bit of Raul Neto for value. Atlanta's allowed the 8th most fantasy points to point guards, and he scored 23 plus DraftKings points in 6 of his last 8 games. He's only 4,600 on DraftKings, so decent value there. And then Daniel Gafford, he's quite a bit price difference here. You got 5,200 on FanDuel, but 4,100 on DraftKings. I like that price. 24, 24, and 30 DraftKings points in his last 3 games. So those would be the main plays for me in this game, I think.
Yeah, I think you make some great points. Trae, of course, if he plays at 10-2, is playable. These injuries that he has, and then he comes out and plays 1 million minutes and scores 1 million points.
Right.
It gets crazy to try to figure out what the real deal is there. But let's follow that news. If he's in, he's certainly an option to me. For me, it's all dependent on Capella. If both guys are out, Okongwu and Collins, then I love Capella. If either one of them are in, though, they try not to extend Capella if they don't have to. And they're real protective of his minutes. Plus, they don't like him at the end in there because he can't make a foul shot either. So if those guys are out, then yes, with Capella. If either one of them are in, then I'm not going to play any of the bigs for Atlanta. I would think they'll have Collins on some type of restriction if he's back today. Bogdanovich is a good point. He's 6K coming off the bench. It's hard with 18 teams playing to play guys off the bench unless you're convinced they're going to play mid-30s minutes. Bogdanovich hasn't quite got there on minutes, but he's been extremely efficient multiple games in a row. So for that, I agree with you. He can be a consideration here. On the Washington side, I expected all along, and I've been saying it every day, I thought Raul Neto and Ish Smith would be just a complete positional, split where they both play minutes. But Raul's Howell, I guess is pronounced. Sorry, Howell Neto is really maintained the starting position there and gotten more minutes. And at 4-6, if you're punting, maybe even the second spot on FanDuel, point guard or something, I think it's reasonable to consider him. The defense of the Hawks backcourt is nothing to be right home about. After that, Kuzma 9.4 is a big number, but man, has he played fantastic. I just don't know if I can go quite to that number with all the good pay-ups here, but he is capable. I will say his rebound percentage has come back down a little bit since Gafford's sort of retaken that center position from Thomas Bryant.
Right.
So, Gafford is tempting. Again, if you want that pay down center, at 4-1. He's probably not going to blow up the board for you, but his floor is pretty solid now that he's really taken that position back over.
Right.
And then they play about 4 or 5 guys off the bench, with Hashimura, Avdija, Smith, Bryant, and Satoransky. I'm just not, crazy about any of those guys. Even in GPP, I think they're a bit of a reach.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I thought the same thing, that if Kuzma was on a smaller slate, he'd be more in consideration for me. But on a 9-game slate, I just don't think I have to go there.
I'm with you. All right, the third 7:00 game is the Indiana Pacers at the Detroit Pistons. We've got Detroit on the second night of a back-to-back. They were in that hard-fought game yesterday as well, so they're, again, playing back-to-back Indiana Island game. Indiana's favored by 3.5 on the road. It's a 231.5 total, not bad. 117.5 implied for Indiana and 114 for the Detroit Pistons. Indiana comes in 22-42. Detroit comes in 16-47. Probable for Indiana, Lance Stevenson. 2 important pieces for the rotation for Indiana are questionable, Bataze and Duarte. So we need to follow those 2. We already knew that McConnell, Turner, and Warren are out. For Detroit, you have 2 guys out, rotational guys, Marvin Bagley and Frank Jackson. So looking at this game statistically, pace, Indiana 18, Detroit 12, so middle of the pack, but 2 garbage defenses, 26th and 25th. So another matchup of 2 teams that don't defend. And unlike these first 2 games, Crash, we've got tons of value here on both sides.
Yeah.
So is this a go-to game for you? It could be a sneaky one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to have a few plays in this game. I don't know if I'm going to stack it or anything like that, but starting with Malcolm Brogdon, 7,200 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DraftKings. Detroit's allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to point guards. He's coming off his best game of the year against Orlando on Wednesday. He had 31 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists for 65 DraftKings points. So monster game for Brogdon on Wednesday. And Detroit's also allowed the most fantasy points to small forwards. So if we have to figure out if it's going to be Brissett or Stevenson or who's going to, be in there, hopefully one of those guys is going to be out. It'll make that decision a little bit easier for us. But at this point, I like Brissett, 6,200 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DraftKings. And then on Detroit's side, Sadiq Bey, Indiana's allowed the 10th most fantasy points to small forwards. He had 50 DraftKings points in their first matchup. He's 6,800 on DraftKings. And then Jeremy Grant, I think you can go back to him. He seems to be finding his rhythm. He's had 36, 40, and 38 DraftKings points in the last 3 games. So I like him a little bit here too.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I mean, I think it really can be sneakier than a lot of people are thinking. You've got some youngsters for Detroit that, the back-to-back shouldn't be too daunting for them. But, yeah, there's a lot of guys I like here. I think Malcolm Brogdon at 7.6, his price is now, a little bit, mid-range where it's a little tougher. But I did have him that last game where he was the top scorer on the slate, and it was awesome. So I think he can come back to that. I mean, he's playing fantastic basketball and certainly is in consideration. I think we're going to see his price climb over 8K pretty soon,
Yeah, for sure.
Halliburton a little overpriced at 8.7 because that hasn't adjusted with Brogdon back. But Buddy Hield's been getting a boatload of minutes at 7.4. I think he's playable. Same with O'Shea Brissett at 5.9. Very playable. He does have to face some Jeremy Grant defense, which can be a bit stifling.
True.
The spot that's been difficult for me, though, because I like both of these guys, and I've been burned both ways, and now there seem to be splitting a bit, but Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith. I think they're both interesting. If Jackson gets enough time and stays out of foul trouble, he got in some foul trouble last time. He's only 5'3", and Jalen Smith smashed it last time at 5'2", and he's been playing some 4 and 5, backing up both Brissett and Jackson. So, Jalen Smith's going to be low owned. I think he's really showed some great strides here. And at 5'2", I think he's going to be a very, very sneaky play. And I'm very interested in him off the bench. We have to see if Bataze's playing and Duarte, because it affects that rotation. If those guys are out, the two that you can at least discuss are Lance Stevenson, if he's in, or Terry Taylor. Because with Duarte and Bataze, that'd all be a split with those guys if they're all in. So for now, Brogdon possibly healed an outside shot, but a little overpriced. Brissett's a good value, and I like Smith off the bench. So I think I'm going to come out of here with two Pacers. And then on the Pistons side, Cade Cunningham 7.6, and that price is a little bit much, but it's the same as Brogdon, and you've got he's probably going to be guarded by Brogdon. So sort of a fair match there. But the guy that I really like on the Pistons is Saddiq Bey. Like you said, he's had a good game against them before. He's sub 7K now at 6.8. And that's what Indiana, now that they're going with the Brogdon, Halliburton, Hield lineup, having a little trouble guarding, some of the bigger threes like a Saddiq Bey. Yeah. And he can really pound you inside and then knock down a bunch of threes. So Saddiq Bey is my favorite Piston in this game. After that, I get the Jeremy Grant thing. He's 6'3". It just seems to be a little more volatile because they are using inside, Stewart, and Olynyk now is getting a bigger role. So I get a little nervous there. Isaiah Stewart is always a reasonable pay down at center. Plus, it's Isaiah versus Isaiah at center. So, that carries some weight.
Right.
But, at 4.8, he's usually going to at least be a safe play. So if you're, stacking up salary-wise somewhere else, he's not the worst decision on the slate by any stretch.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, man. You ready for game 4? We're going through this like a knife through butter.
Yep.
Milwaukee Bucks, a little bit about them.
A little bit.
They're playing the Chicago Bulls in Chicago. Big game for the Bucks fans out there. Fear the deer. Milwaukee -4 on the road. Chicago's going to take that personally, I think. It's a 238 total. So what about that, man? How would you like to have the Milwaukee Bucks as the largest total on the board?
Wow.
So how many bucks are too many for you? 6?
Well, Chicago's a pretty good defensive team, so that's a little surprising to me.
I know. Well, let me finish the numbers, and then you can dive in because I want you to dissect this for us because nobody knows the Bucks like you do. So how about this, though? 121 implied for Milwaukee, 117 for Chicago. So me, when I see 2 over 115, I get excited. When there's a 120 and a 115, it's like, this game has got some teeth to it and needs to be, considered. Milwaukee comes in 38-25, Chicago 39-24. So they're a game apart on top of everything else to make it even more intense. Yeah. We don't have any questions here. We know Connaughton, Hill, and Lopez are out for Milwaukee. Ball, Caruso, and Williams are out for Chicago. So it's the same scenario they've been playing with for a while. So it's cool to have a game with a small total, a small spread, a big total, 2 teams that are motivated to win. We don't have all these question marks swirling. You have a nice pace, Milwaukee at 8 and Chicago at 15. Milwaukee's fallen out of the top 10 defensively at 12. And we know since Chicago's backcourt's been out, they have been falling in the defensive rankings. They're down to 21. So I'll give this to you to say this checks about 5 boxes out of 5 boxes. And the only problem I see, and I'll let you figure it out from there, is the nightmare of salary here. There's 6 guys that are high priced just in this game, in my opinion. So what do you make of this, Josh? Because this is the one where I scratch my bald head and try to figure out what to do.
Well, I like on the Milwaukee side, I like Drew Holiday, 7,800 on DraftKings. I think that's a pretty good price. Chicago's allowed the 11th most fantasy points to point guards now. I think a lot of that has to do with when Lonzo Ball and and Alex Caruso have been out. I think their rankings have fallen quite a bit because of that.
Yes.
But he scored 54. Holiday scored 54 and 43 in his last 2 games. Had that 54 against Miami, which is another good defensive team. So I think that he's more than capable of having a good game here against Chicago. So that would probably be one of my top plays for Milwaukee. Also, like Portis, 6,600 on DraftKings. Going back to Chicago, it's a little bit of a revenge game for him. He had 31 DraftKings points in their first matchup, and last year he averaged 39 DraftKings points against the Bulls. So he does seem to have a little bit of that revenge factor. I mean, it fits him, his personality and everything, obviously. So I like Portis. Giannis, obviously, he's always in play. Chicago's allowed the 5th most fantasy points to power forwards, but he's 12-3 on DraftKings, so that's a little bit steep for me. I'm not sure I'm going to go there. I do like DeMar DeRozan below 10K. It feels like he's been at 10K or above for a long time now, so getting him below 10K now. Milwaukee's allowed the 7th most fantasy points to power forwards. He had 46.5 DraftKings points in their first matchup with 35 real points. So I like him. And then Vucevic, he's 8,800 on DraftKings. He's had quite a bit of success against the Bucks. He had 52 DraftKings points averaged in his last 5 games against them. So I do like him.
Yes, good analogy there. I'll tell you what, this game, a lot of people are going to have multiple players here for all the reasons that I said, but I'm just going to say it right now. This is going to be my contrarian stance of the day, is not to be overexposed to this game. I think there are 2 reasons why. I think you're going to see more of a playoff atmosphere where both teams are just digging in and going after it. You're not going to get a lot of lackadaisical buckets up and down. And, I'm not saying that, the under is a lock here by any stretch, but at 238, I think it does go under, because I think these 2 teams are going to be hyped up. It's going to be sold out stadium. It's going to be loud. They're basically tied almost in the standings. I just see a little bit different atmosphere, and I don't see where you're going to benefit a ton by playing teams that we've talked about all along, where if you have at least 3 guys on each side that are go-to guys that can blow up a slate at any time, they're all priced higher. Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday, and Portis not far behind, and then Levine, DeRozan, and Vuk. So you've got to pay the piper here. And if you try to go 2v2 in this game, like a lot of people will, you're picking up the scraps in all the other games, and there's no guarantee that usage is going to be there.
Right.
So I'm not going to pass this game, but I guarantee you I'll have less exposure than most of the industry. And you're going to have all the other guys out there, on podcasts saying how this is the key game. And, they're going to love Giannis and love Holiday and love Levine and love Vucevic. But you know what? That's not the real world. You take those 4, and then you're grabbing a bunch of Mo Bambas and Kem Birches and, Gary Harris's the rest of the way. So good luck with that. But so here's the couple points, though, that I'll make. I do think the 2 centers are my 2 favorite spots if I had to really narrow it down, because Portis is down to 6'6", which is very fair. And if there's anybody in the league that is a narrative value guy, like you said, the emotions on the sleeve, Bobby Portis, those eyes are going to be bugging out of his head like he gets all fired up. Yeah. And, Vuk's not a good defender. I think Portis can pay that price pretty easily. On the other side of the ball, I think Vuk is, and I've avoided Vuk a ton this year, but, Giannis is outstanding in the paint, but I still think Vuk, the way he's been shooting the ball, he's knocking down a bunch of threes on top of everything else. I think he's dangerous. I'm not going to go there, I doubt, at 8-8, but he is the guy that I'm afraid that could throw a 50-60 burger pretty quickly on the board here for Chicago. But, probably not looking that direction. Levine was great, when he was priced down a little bit more, a little bit tougher now. I will say this to your point, though. Everybody says Ayo Dosunmu, this young guy, he's just crushing it defensively, shut down. if you look at his recent couple of weeks, I've been avoiding some of the point guards he plays against, and they've been doing okay. So either they're figuring him out a little bit, or Mr. Dosunmu's getting a little tired, or, this is a tall task for him. Fresh, new, youngster having to guard the other team's best perimeter player every single game.
Yeah.
So something to, keep aware of there is maybe we start flipping the angle on that. And instead of avoiding some Dosunmu players, put them into play. And Holiday seems to be hot lately. So at 7-8, that, if I don't go Portis, he'd probably be the one Milwaukee option for me.
Yeah, and Dosunmu just guarded Trae Young all night last night. So
and that went real well.
Yeah, he got lit up. Well, I was going to make a point too about the over/under in this game. Do you know what the over/under was last time they played?
220.
184. 94 to 90 was the score.
That's what it was?
Yeah, the Bucks won 94 to 90.
Oh my God. And they make it a 238 now?
So
that smells like a bunch of dead fishes in the water, though. That scares the crap out of me. If Vegas makes that much of a change, that is terrifying. So this could be 130, 127.
Yeah,
I wish I didn't know that, because that scares me now.
Yeah, I found that to be very surprising when I saw that, but that was the score. So
wow. Yeah. I mean, it was different situations. Some guys were out. I get all that,
right.
But still, I don't know if I've seen that much of a jump from a real score matchup to what Vegas puts out there.
Yeah, it's 54 points. That's huge.
All right, I'm gonna have to sell my dog. Sorry, Chance, you're gonna have to go, buddy. Everything's going in under Milwaukee.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the other 7:30 game. And no, I would not sell Chance. He's our mascot for Coach Talk.
Right.
7:30, Orlando Magic, Toronto Raptors. So we go from a real exciting game to not quite as much of an exciting game. But it's confusing here because we have Orlando on the first night of a back-to-back and Toronto on the second night. So we have two things to figure out here. Toronto, is favored by 8. It's a 221 total. 106.5 implied for Orlando, 114 for the Toronto Raptors. Orlando comes in 15-48, Toronto 34-28. We know Isaac and that's Mo Wagner out, Franz Wagner in. In fact, Franz had a blow-up game the last time after I played him 3 times in a row, Crash, and didn't play him last time. Yeah. So the Wagners are not my favorite people right now either. For Toronto, for the 9 millionth time, we're going to have to call him the point guard, LeBron James. Fred VanVleet is questionable. So questionable, he's been sitting lately. We've had Malachi Flynn 3 games in a row. Same scenario like always. If VanVleet sits, Flynn is playable. If VanVleet plays without restrictions against a poor Orlando team, he's in play. And then we've got some other designations. David Johnson, questionable. The newly acquired DJ Wilson, questionable. And Thad Young is questionable. We already know OG Anunoby is going to be out for a couple of weeks with a bad toe. So we go back to this. Statistically speaking, again, you got the back-to-backs in play. Orlando first night, Toronto second night. Pace, Orlando 10. Toronto only 25. Orlando 24th defensively, and right in the middle of the pack, Toronto at 14. So this game is very confusing, sir. Have you figured out any targets?
First, I wanted to make a comment about your Wagner comment, because those guys weren't my favorite guys in the world either, being a Wisconsin Badger fan. So Michigan
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they gave us some trouble. So for me, if VanVleet's out again, Malachi Flynn, this price differentiation is so insane to me. 6,200 on FanDuel, only 3,900 on DraftKings. So he actually went down. Flynn's price has actually gone down since last night. So
well, let's face it. If VanVleet sits, Malachi Flynn on DraftKings has to be 100% free square in every lineup.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, that's just a crazy deal there. Scotty Barnes, Orlando's allowed 6th most fantasy points to small forwards. He had 39.75 DraftKings points in their first matchup, 6,300 on DraftKings. So he's 6,900 on FanDuel. So he's almost hit that 7K mark, where I would want to start to avoid him a little bit, but still playable on DraftKings. Siakam, Orlando's allowed the 2nd most fantasy points to power forwards. He's 8,100 on FanDuel. He's 9,100 on DraftKings. So I'm not sure I'm going to play him on DraftKings, but he is in consideration for me at 8,100 on FanDuel. He's been near 10K most of the year. So I like that price for Siakam.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I don't really like the Orlando side. Toronto's pretty good defensively. I was looking at all their rankings where they rank, and they're pretty solid. So,
yeah, no, I don't blame you. To me, I really can't say exactly what I'm going to do here until I have that news on Van Vliet.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for now, we count him out because he's missed 3 games in a row, but I really do think he may play here. I think, it was the decision, let's bring him back, last night or bring him back tonight since it was back to back. So I'm very torn here. The bottom line is if he plays without restriction, he's playable. If he's in, it really shuffles everybody else down. It hurts Trent, Barnes, Siakam, all 3 of those guys. So, but if Van Vliet's out, let's just say that, I think you can go to fairly priced Trent and Barnes. Trent's been a little quiet lately at 6'8", but definitely going to lock in Flynn if Van Vliet sits. Yeah. So I doubt I'll go with the full backcourt from Toronto, but Trent's a sneaky play at 6'8". Nobody's going to own him because everybody'd go to Flynn. But, something to at least keep in mind for a different pivot that could be beneficial, because if he gets hot, he's tough.
Yeah.
Scotty Barnes is really playing all different aspects of the game. This kid is really fun to watch. He plays the best player on the other team. I don't care if it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4. He guards them every game, and he gets blocks, steals, and he can score the ball. So if he gets a little bit more consistent with his outside shot and, not turn it over as much, he tries to make too many spectacular passes. But at 6'3" on DraftKings, that's a good price, man. I really am glad you pointed that out, because the pricing difference seems a little exaggerated today between DraftKings and FanDuel. So somebody looks like they dropped the ball here on one side or the other, but I think Barnes is a good play on DraftKings and just so on FanDuel, but he's in play for me. I don't trust Pascal Siakam. I've watched his game recently. He does not seem to have that fluid motion that he had. He's a little choppy and second guessing himself. So I'm not spending over 9K on a guy that I don't think has really got his full game going. Now I say that, and hopefully, knock on wood, I don't, have him come up and throw one of his 65, 70 burgers on the board, which he's capable of doing, but I'm not going to go there. And then it's just way too much of a rotation with some of these other guys. A lot of people, Boucher was real popular. Everybody's looking for that 55-point Boucher game at 4K, but I just don't trust his minutes. Achua is playing well.
Yep.
We don't know if Thad Young's in or not. Birch is getting some minutes, so I'm not going to go there. On the Orlando side, I do like a guy here, and I've been so high on him lately. I think I've played him 4 out of the last 5 slates because he's been in good matchups, and I like his matchup here, and that's Jalen Suggs. I understand everybody's afraid because, okay, Fultz is back, RJ Hampton's getting good minutes, and that's, with Anthony being the alpha there, where's Suggs going to be? If you've watched these Orlando games recently, Suggs has been more of the alpha than anybody else. I think he's decided that he's taking this team on over, and it's going to be his squad. Now, yes, Anthony has the ball in his hands the whole time, and et cetera. I get that. And he's only 6'6", so Cole Anthony, again, can be a nice play. But Suggs at 5'7", if he makes some shots, he's going to get steals. He's going to get blocks, believe it or not, and he can jump out of the building. And I just think that he's really flexing out here recently, and I like him again in this game, where I think it stays close enough if Van Vliet sits. Where I get scared is if he plays and Toronto decides they're going to go after it, they could smack Orlando because they're so bad. So Suggs maybe at 5-7. I don't want to slide back into the trap of Franz Wagner because, like I say, I played him like 3 times in a row. Then last game, he has the game of his season. And I'm so terrified of suckering back into this. You know, the Roadrunner, when he runs over and sees the giant literal sucker there, and then the rock falls on his head. That's how I feel like if I put Franz Wagner up there and he gets me 17 fantasy points. So, yeah, I don't know, but he's certainly capable of putting up similar type numbers. So we'll see, because I don't think Barnes guards Wagner. I just think they're going to put Barnes on Wendell Carter or, you know, something like that, because it's just a different dynamic with the matchup with this team. So an interesting game. I do want some exposure. I think that, you know, people that are going to pass on this game are making a mistake, because I do think there are some nice plays here. All right, let's move to the 8 o'clock games. And I love the way the games are spread out today. We're going to have a lot of basketball overlapping one after another. We have 2 8 o'clock games. The first one is the Utah Jazz and the New Orleans Pelicans. Utah is favored by 3. It's a 227 total, 115 implied for Utah, 112 for the New Orleans Pelicans. Coming into the game, you've got Utah 39-22, New Orleans 26-36. The only guy questionable for Utah is Jared Butler. Other than that, they are fully healthy. For the Pelicans, Nance and our buddy Zion Williamson. I said on the show yesterday I wasn't going to make fun of him and call him cheeseburgers anymore. I'm rooting for him to come back. So Larry Nance and Zion Williamson are out. So let's look at this game. We've got 19th and 22nd in pace. That's not exciting. We have 10th in defense in Utah, pretty solid there, 20th in New Orleans. So combining for very average. So this is one of those games that can bite you and be, you know, very low DFS game, or it can bite you and go the other direction. I don't think there'll be much in between. It is a low spread of 3, and the Pelicans are at home playing for a playoff spot and playing very intense basketball. So what's your brush here?
At this point, my stance is to fade this game. I don't like anyone in this game, actually. Nobody.
Wow. All right. Jazz fans and Pelicans fans, rise up. Tell Crash he's wrong. You know, I think there's a couple of things here. CJ McCollum's been fantastic, by the way. Since he came over there, what a perfect fit. But he's 9K, which makes it a little difficult. And he's still splitting the majority of big shots with Brandon Ingram, who's 8-3. So you don't get like a steal on either one. So I get that. Jackson Hayes has been a constant go-to for everybody in this world at 5.2. I don't know if we're expecting him to have like some miraculous 60-point game, but I've been chasing him and he's been okay. But, you know, you have to like sweat and okay, which isn't very fun.
Right.
So not sure I want to go there, especially with the Gobert interior defense. Same thing with Joe Val at his price. So I'm with you. CJ's tempting for me because he's such a stud at 9K. He would be the guy if I decide to pay up there to go to, because I just love the way he's playing. He seems very comfortable in New Orleans. As far as the Jazz go, you know, Donovan Mitchell's been fantastic. He's 9-3. You know, he is a guy that could go off here. He's probably going to get some Herb Jones defense, which is reasonable. But, you know, 9-3, again, a big price. It's almost like, for me, I'm either going to do like you're doing, fade the game, or say, okay, I'm going to go against, the ownership and everything, and I'm going to go CJ against Donovan and just let those two have it out and hope the game stays tight and is high scoring, because I do like that duo back and forth there with Donovan and CJ. So it's going to be one option or the other for me. Nobody else for Utah really comes into play for me. Too risky on Bogdanovich and O'Neal for sure, or Clarkson. And Gobert at 8-2, you know, he gets a Joe Val, Jackson Hayes, you know, big fellas inside combo. So hopefully that holds him to the point where his rebounds don't get him to his number.
Yeah.
All right, Chief. The other 8 o'clock game, Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder. Minnesota favored by 7.5, 230 total, 118.75 for Minnesota, 111.25 for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Minnesota comes in 34-29, the Thunder 20-42. We have a questionable tag on Jared Vanderbilt, which is important because that's a key rotational piece. Plus, we already know Ant is out, and McKinley Wright is also out. The big news for Oklahoma City, who's been sitting a boatload of people, there is a questionable tag on a key player there in Lugens Dort. Also, Favors, Jerome, Wiggins, and Kenrich Williams, all questionable. So you explain to the NBA how you have 6 guys questionable. Wow, that's pretty amazing that you have 6 guys that are just dinged up enough to play or not play. Don't understand it. And then on top of that, Josh Giddey is doubtful. And then you've got Muscala and JRE out. So you've got a compressed rotation here for Oklahoma City. And how they're being able to just tank here is a little bit confusing to me. I would think the NBA is looking pretty closely at that. As far as statistically here, it is the first night of a back-to-back for Minnesota. So that's the last one on the list here. I don't know how they attack this with OKC. They're favored by 7.5. So maybe they rest somebody. Maybe this is a Cat rest, a Deangelo, but I don't know. With Ant already out, I have a feeling those 2 guys play. But we need to follow this news. And if you're going to roster some of these guys, just, be prepared for late swap just in case some news comes down, because we're more than likely not going to have this at lock. But certainly makes it really confusing here on the Minnesota side. Minnesota's second in pace, so that's very intriguing. Oklahoma City, not bad, 16th, middle of the pack. So this game's more of a pace game than a lot of the other ones. Defensively, Minnesota 17th, the Thunder 11th. They're trying to scratch their way into the top 10, which is pretty impressive with this group of cast-offs, G-Leaguers, and European players, basically. So I don't know, man. If you can figure this one out, then it's time for you to take your bar exam. You can be a big wheel like Andrew and have be an attorney. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Where do you start with this game and where do you end? I have no idea.
I'm looking at, for me, the first play is going to be Deangelo Russell, 7,900 on DraftKings. Oklahoma City's allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to shooting guards. He had 52.25 DraftKings points last time they played in January. And as you mentioned, Anthony Edwards is out. So that usage is going to be going to Russell and Towns primarily, assuming they both play. And I do like Towns, especially on FanDuel, where he's 9,300. He's 10-1 on DraftKings. So 9,300 on FanDuel, really good price there. Oklahoma City's allowed the 4th most fantasy points to centers. His last 5 games, he's averaged 53 DraftKings points against Oklahoma City. So, solid numbers there for sure. And then one of McDaniels or Vanderbilt for me. Oklahoma City's allowed the 4th most fantasy points to power forwards, and Vanderbilt had 42 DraftKings points in their last matchup. So good value there, really good value if he hits that. That's 10K value, so 10 times, So yeah. Oklahoma City, I don't really like anyone. Patrick Beverley's done a pretty good job against SGA if you look up the numbers, and that would be my primary play if I was going to play anybody from the Thunder.
Okay. I have more interest here, I think, than most. Again, this is shaping up for me to be somewhat contrarian of a build the way I'm looking so far, which I love. I love the fact that, even in cash and single entry that I'm a bit different than the field, but I think there's a lot to take away from here. Number one, Vanderbilt news is massive to me. He's questionable because if he sits, all of a sudden Malik Beasley comes into play, Naz Reid comes into play. You really can start looking at the guy that's going to plug into that spot and get those minutes.
Yeah,
I'm with you. My favorite T-Wolf is Deangelo Russell at 7.9 because, number one, I love to play him when Ant's out and vice versa. And the fact that Oklahoma City's really had trouble guarding that position, this just seems like one of those games where Deangelo is going to be a shoot first type of guard and really score the ball. So I like him a lot. I love Cat's price on FanDuel. I'm with you. 9.3 is a big misprice. There's no way Cat should be below 10K. I think 10.1 is fine. He really, if I was pricing, I'd have him like a 10.5 because Oklahoma City's interior defense sucks. And Cat, when he gets rolling, can score the ball. And if it stays close, Vegas has it at 7.5. Maybe this is the game you roll the dice and go Deangelo and Cat and go after it because they're going to do the majority of scoring, especially if Vanderbilt's out. Then you've got all the second fiddle guys, McDaniels, Beasley, Reed, those guys. So more falls on Russell and Towns. Pat Bev's always an option if you're punting 5K, but again, all over the board. You never know exactly what he's going to do. Plus, I think he's going to have his hands full and focus on SGA because SGA has been a one-man show for this team. 10.3 priced right, in my opinion. If you want to use one of your pay-ups, I could see it there. I mean, his usage right now is off the chart. It's up there with everybody that's, all the big boys because there's really no other options on that squad. So I'm probably not going to go there, but I do think that SGA is a great play. I really do. Trey Mann's been okay. Pokashevsky, now that he's starting, that skinny little or tall dude, I should say, he gets some fantasy points, He does. He's only 4'9". He's not the worst play in the world. But after that, though, I know a lot of people like Beasley at 5'7", Roby at 4'6", because he's playing more. But I watched a lot of this game the last time out. This Vit Krejcik guy at 3.2 is getting good minutes. Olivier Sarr at 3.1 is getting good minutes. Do I want to roster those guys? No. But they're concerning enough to me that the big man 4-5 man rotation, with Beasley, Roby, Krejcik, Sarr, those guys are all getting minutes. So I don't even want to mess with that. So for me, if I have a pay down, maybe Pokachevsky or Mann, SGA if I'm going to pay up, and then probably going to spend some cash on this game with Russell or Towns, or if I want to save some money once I know if Vanderbilt's in or out, I'll consider a Beasley Reed as a secondary cheap value play.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we have 2 games left, a 9 o'clock and a 10 o'clock. Real quickly, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. If you're a first-time depositor, you get a match of 100% if you put in 20, 50, 75, 100, all the way up to 100. They will flat out match your deposit if you use the promo code CoachTalk, all one word, no space, and you'll get that promo code. Also, if you want to take advantage of our BetUS.com.pa, if you're looking for a book and your state doesn't allow wagering, BetUS.com.pa is an outstanding place to go. I've been there 16 years. Great payouts, very simple. Just when you sign up, it's key here. Use the promo code Coach Talk. If you sign up and deposit $149 or more, the first deposit, we are going to give you 2 free months here at DFS Coach Talk. That alone is $150 value. So if you want to roll the dice, betus.com.pa, promo code Coach Talk. All right, tomorrow, real quick set of what the deal is. It's doubleheader Saturday as far as podcasting goes. Crash and I will be back first thing in the morning. It's a 6-game slate, but we will be going over the 5-game main slate for tomorrow. And we will also build a 2 brains are better than 1 lineup on FanDuel. So we'll have a FanDuel GPP built right here on the podcast tomorrow. And then 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll go live with Gundacker, where we'll break down all 5 games, game by game. So we'll be posting that link on Twitter, on YouTube, and in our Discord. And then last but not least, we want you to come try us out. DFSCoachTalk.com. A quick 10 spot. You're in for 3 days. You see everything we've got. I'll do a one-on-one with you strategically. We'll look at everything, bankroll management, contest selection, you name it, we will go over it. So love to have you, Crash. Let's bring all those people in that have been looking at us and wanting to try and not gone after it. We're looking for you to come in here and give us a shot.
Absolutely.
All right, 2 games, 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. 9 o'clock game, nice big total here, but massive spread. It is Houston at Denver. The Denver Nuggets are favored by a whopping 14. So the only big, real, true, in my opinion, blowout conversation. But it's 234.5, 110.25 implied for Houston, a big fat 124.25 for Denver, which makes you feel like you need to go there. Houston's 15-47, Denver's 36-26. We have questionable tags on Eric Gordon and Jayshawn Tate, which are important. And then also Dennis Schroeder is questionable. So 3 main pieces of that offense. We need those answers. We're not going to have a lot of them. So set up late swap if you want to go with those guys. My buddy Garuba and John Wall are out. For Denver, Zeke Naji, a depth player, sort of deep rotation guy, is questionable. And then Kanchar, Murray, and Porter all remain out. Coming into this game, we've got Houston, of course, our darling of the industry, with the fastest pace, number 1, worst defense, number 30. Denver, 21st in pace, so major pace down for Houston. You can't have a better pace up for Denver. Defensively, Denver's right square in the middle at 15, but should be able to take care of business with a 30-ranked Houston defense. So are you heavy on the Pistons, the Nuggets tonight, I should say?
No, I don't want to pay 12-6 for Jokic in a game that could blow out. That's just, and he hasn't really been playing, he hasn't scored more than 50 in his last 3 games. So
I know
if the game stays close, he could have, 70 in this matchup because Houston's allowed the most fantasy points to centers.
I know.
But if this game does blow out, and I'm leaning more towards that in my game script thoughts, I don't think he's going to come anywhere near what we need for him at 12-6. So not going to go there. Aaron Gordon is a little bit intriguing to me. He's 5,900 on DraftKings. Houston's allowed the most fantasy points to power forwards, and he had 14 and 18 in his last 2 games. So he's just kind of due for a bounce back here, in my opinion. So
yeah, that's your top play in this game.
Probably would be Aaron Gordon on the Denver side. And then I do like Jalen Green a little bit, 5,300 on DraftKings. Denver's allowed the 4th most fantasy points to point guards. He scored 33 plus DraftKings points 3 of his last 4 games. So a little bit of a decent play there. And that's probably about it for me. Jayshawn Tate would also be in play if he plays, but we don't know that right now. So that's pretty much where I'm at for this game.
Yeah, I'm not crazy here either. I can say that I've had the Joker 2 of the last 3 times, and he has not gotten there. So there's a lot of people on that, I hate the Joker bandwagon with me right now because he's been so disappointing. And when you give that kind of salary up and don't get your number, that stings multiple times in a row. So, here's my fear though, Crash. You said it yourself. Houston has given up more points to centers than any other team in the league. And Joker's the defending MVP at center. He's not played good ball. It's at home in Denver. It's so terrifying because as of now, I'm passing on him. But I swear to you, I see if this game freakily stays close somehow, it's like 80 burger is possible for this dude.
Yeah.
He really is.
I know.
And that's terrifying, but I just don't think I can spend that cash after being so disappointed multiple times and with such a propensity for this game to blow out because Houston stinks. And if those guys don't play, Gordon, Tate, and Schroeder, now they're not only stink, but they're shorthanded.
Yeah.
They're going against a Denver team that they're 10 games over 500, but they need to make a run to really get up in there, try to host a first round playoffs series. So I don't know, man. For the Houston side, I'll say this. If Gordon, let's just say Gordon, Schroeder, and Tate are all out. If they are, I think you're sort of forced to go after a Porter, Green, or Wood, or a combination of two of them, because 3/4 of the game you're going to get those, those guys in there. If everybody's ruled in, though, I don't see any reason to push the needle,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And then on the Denver side, it's generally hit or miss, other than the Joker, and now he's hit or miss. So, Morris, Barton, Gordon, Jeff Green, those guys, I can't, I'm just not excited about it.
Yeah.
I think that, if you want to take your one last shot at going for the Joker to have a complete smash spot, I would not say that you're doing it wrong by any stretch. But this game is just a little bit concerning for me. If it blows out, I think a lot of people play. And it's like Denver has a deep bench. If this game is 18 or 17, they're not afraid to play Rivers, Highland, Forbes, Jermichael Green, DeMarcus Cousins, Campazzo. Those guys have all been starters at one point or another for this team. And so, I'm probably going to be on the fade bandwagon here as well, unless I can pick up some value on Houston if those guys are out. All right, let's end this podcast with an interesting final game here. It's the 10 o'clock game, late night sweat, hammer, all the fun things everybody calls it. It's an hour after the game, the Denver game. It's the New York Knicks, Phoenix Suns. Phoenix only favored by 6.5 because of the shorthandedness without some key players being Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So it's a 6, but Phoenix is still favored by 6.5. It's a fair total at 224, 108.75 for the Knicks, 115.25 for Phoenix. The Knicks come in 25-37. Phoenix an impressive 50-12. For the Knicks, questionable tag on Noel, which does make some difference for Mitch. And then Grimes and Rose remain out. For Phoenix, as we say, the two stud backcourt of Booker Paul, both out, with two stud big men that I know are your favorites, Kaminsky and Saric. They're both out too. So sorry to burst your bubble there, Crash. But as far as statistically speaking, Knicks 27th place, super slow. Phoenix 9th, so not bad at all. Defensively, Knicks very respectable at 13. And we know Phoenix stymies just about everybody. They're third. So, I hate to pass on these last two games like crazy. I feel like lately I've been trying to hang on for dear life and watch these last games. And it's just like, it just drains the life out of you.
It's definitely not fun.
No, it's not. I hate it. You just miss, you root for turnovers and missed shots and you sweat. But what are you going to, is there anything here that you can have at least something down the stretch that's worth it?
Yeah, I do like Cameron Payne at 4,800 on DraftKings. He had 25 DraftKings points in only 20 minutes on Thursday in that blowout win over Portland. I think this game will be a little bit closer than that one. New York's got a little bit better team overall to me than Portland right now. So I do think that Cameron Payne has some value here. Cameron Johnson, if the game blows out, I mean, he kind of can get you there even if it doesn't. He's 5,800 on both sites. He had 30 plus in 4 of his last 5 games, so 5,800, that's decent value. Jay Crowder's been playing pretty well. He's 5,300 on DraftKings. RJ Barrett's been lights out, but I don't trust him against this defense. So I think that, one of those 3 guys probably for me, and then, kind of pass on the rest of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the 2 Camerons again for Phoenix. I rostered them last time, Cameron Payne and Cameron Johnson. I do think they're the 2 best spots to go price-wise, 4.8 and 5.8. Very fair and makes it work. Payne's probably my favorite. I think he'll be real chalky, though. But that's okay. Nothing wrong with eating some chalk. There's plenty of contrarian spots we brought up through the podcast. Mitch Robb at 4.8, huge risk. But if Noel sits, he could get some extra run at center. RJ Barrett's been the best player on this team, more so than Julius Randle over the last 3 weeks at least. Yeah. So, Barrett's tempting at 7.7. He does get that double duo of Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder, which are a pain in the neck on defense. Those two guys are tough.
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely not going to pay up for Randall at 9.2. Barrett is in consideration for me at 7.7, just because he's been so dominant and their go-to guy. So I will consider him there. And then deciding, can I go with just Cameron Payne, or should I, dial up both Camerons? That's going to be a big question. I think you'll have some people try Landry Shamet. I get that at 3.6, but don't feel like going there. Mikal and 8 in both, they're, again, hit and miss, 6.2 and 7. You just really can't afford that miss late in the slate if you're expecting a lot for him. You don't want to run into like a Marcus Morris situation from last night, which, by the way, not just Marcus Morris Sr. is dead to me, but his twin is too. I'm eliminating both Morrises.
Both.
I wanted to do a Joker on Morris type push last night after watching that. So anyway, sour grapes, water under the bridge, DFS. It's a new day, so we don't have to worry about that. So I do think there's some plays here that are very strong, and it's not a force like I have to have somebody in the late game. I'm going to force a guy in. I do think those plays that were mentioned there are fairly good plays, and it's going to be a salary situation is where can you fit it in? And, I don't think I'm going to pay up, Crash, for the Joker or Giannis tonight. So I'm going to have some cash to work with. So believe it or not, it's probably going to change. It always does at the end of each slate when all the meat comes out. But I'm more of a medium build today than stars and scrubs. How about you?
Yeah, I'm right there too. For sure.
All right, man. Then this is our prize picks selection time of the podcast. So it is early morning, so we're not sure that we're going to have all the choices up there. So you can go on a lot of things that we said throughout the podcast if you're building some. But why don't we give people our two favorite plays for what's up on the board right now, Crash? Who's your first? Well, we'll give you your second choice first. We'll build the drama.
Okay. My second choice, I'm going to go with Drew Holiday over 18.5 points.
Okay.
I like how he's been playing lately. He's gone over that number in his last 4 games. So solid play there from Drew Holiday. Like you said, he's been pretty much on fire lately, especially from 3. And then for my first pick, my top play will be Deangelo Russell over 22.5 points with Anthony Edwards out. We talked about the matchup against the Thunder. I like that play. So that'll be my play there.
Okay,
Russell
very
and
good.
Holiday over in points.
Who was that?
Russell and Holiday over in points.
Gotcha.
And
okay. Excellent.
There could be more plays on the board. Obviously, that as the day goes, there will be more, but there'll be more that I like. But for now, for what's on the board, that would be my top 2.
Okay, I like it. All right, for me, this is a really weird one. You're going to get a kick out of this one, and it seems odd play, but I really like it. It's SGA over 5.5 rebounds. And there's a lot of things that go into that. The guys in and out, the way that game, I think, is going to unfold and how the matchups work with Minnesota. He has a tendency now to drift down there and get those, quote unquote, the old Russell Westbrook, type of rebounds, or now like the Luka rebounds where the point guard just drifts in there and pulls 3 or 4 rebounds just for being the guy looking to rebound and go. And SGA has some size too. People don't realize he's stretchy. So I think an odd one, but I really like 5.5 rebounds over for SGA. And then PRA, points, rebounds, assists total. There's a couple of guys here that I think could really get to that number. But it doesn't seem like this would be an obvious flat out play either. But I'm going to go over CJ McCollum 32.5 because he's doing a little bit of everything. He's not a good rebounder. I get that. But when you're putting up 25 points, 5 assists, he's just got to grab maybe 3 rebounds and he's at that number. And I think that's somewhat of a floor in this, decently high scoring game against Utah. So I'm going McCollum over PRA and the weird one of SGA over rebounds.
Okay. And I want to remind our viewers that on Fridays they have happy hour on Prize Picks. So
right,
you can get plays below $5. Usually the minimum is $5. You can get a plays from $1 to $4 between 1 and 5 Eastern on Prize Picks. So
excellent. So have an early drink and an early Prize Picks play, and you're set for the day.
Yep.
All right, man. Outstanding. Really appreciate you. Great slate tonight. We're really going to get after it. We look forward to talking with everybody again tomorrow. We'll be back for that 5-game main slate and then to pick our 2 brains are better than one FanDuel lineup GPP. So thank you, Crash. Have a great Friday. Enjoy yourself. We have our guys Andrew and John at the big conference in Boston there. They're having a great time.
Yeah.
So do you see the picture I had of them at the bar afterwards? The 2 wild and crazy guys.
Yep, I did.
we're smashing them because they can't answer back because they're at
right.
the conference.
Yeah, exactly.
Great stuff, man. Well, have a great day. Enjoy yourself wherever you are. It's sunny and 80 degrees here in Dallas. How is that possible at this time of year? But I'll take it. It's beautiful. All right, man. Have a great one. And everybody enjoy. Crush those slates. Let's see takedowns. Post some stuff up in here. Thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button.